Welcome back to another video on the Who Guy channel, where today we are doing our Partwork Dalek. Once again, yes, we've got issues 15 to 18 in this video to open up for you guys. We're going to go through all of the magazine details as well as build our next stages of the Dalek. We also got our added free gift for being a subscriber, which is a Dalek toolkit, so we will get into that. And if you do like these Dalek Partwork videos, make sure to smash that like button, and if you're not already, subscribed down below. Timestamps on your screen now and in the comments and description if you want to just skip to a certain issue. So let's continue with our Dalek. But before we actually check any of the magazines out, we got this exclusive letter from Hachette Partworks saying that we will be receiving exclusive Dalek tin posters. So these look really cool. We got one for Genesis of the Daleks, one for the Daleks, and one for Army of the Ghosts. And these are supposed to be high quality tin posters, and they're supposed to have original artwork which are going to be exclusively designed just for this Partwork. And they are embossed, so that sounds pretty cool. They aren't free though, they do come for a special subscriber price of $19.99. So if you don't want this, you have to call them up and say you don't want this, because they've already basically reserved you a set if you do subscribe. So if you don't want these, make sure you contact Partwork. I'm going to grab them, show them off in the videos, and I believe they should be coming with our next order. So that's really exciting that we're getting some extra added things within this collection. And we get one of our subscriber gifts this month with this package. I think we've only got one subscriber gift left, and it is this Dalek toolkit. Would have been even more handy if we had this at the start of the collection, because, well, we've needed some of these things, but it's really nice to have the Dalek printed on the front there. It's just in this kind of toolkit pencil case like thing, and then inside we've got all your screwdrivers, files, even got an X-Acto knife with some blades, we've got some tweezers, and we've got some pliers. So that's really cool. It seems to be decent enough quality in itself, and I'm definitely going to be using some of these in this episode. So this is really cool to get free with our subscription. Now let's get into the first issue, this month's package. So the first issue we're going to be looking at today is issue 15. Remember, timestamps on your screen now if you want to skip an issue or get to the issue that you are on. We're going to open this up, and it looks like we've got a massive part box as well within this issue. So with our part box, to one side we have this yellow logo for the Dalek this time round, and it gives us a little sneak peek of what's going to be inside this issue, as well as our step-by-step instructions. Turning to the first page, we don't get any of that nice Dalek artwork with this issue, unfortunately, but we get the content. And this adventure that we're looking at inside this issue 15 is the Day of the Daleks Part 2. And this just gives us a rundown all about the episode, loads of behind-the-scenes looks, loads about the classic series inside this issue as well. So you get new series and classic series facts all in this magazine. Anatomy of a Dalek this time is the Stone Dalek. I believe certain issues had this earlier in the run, but this time it's in this issue. I do really like the Paradigm Dalek, and especially this stone variant. And it looks like we're continuing on with that Dalek dome. And a sneak peek on the back for issue 16 that we will be doing in this video. And then we got our lovely part box, and these are always wrapped up really nicely. So these are the parts that come with issue 15. So we have got this kind of dome turntable here. We've got 4 bearing wheels and 4 axle pins. So what I would like us to do is insert these bearing wheels, these very small little bearing wheels, into the 4 slots here, and then using the axle pins to slot those through just to hold them into place. Now this is going to be a bit tricky because they will fall through, so you've kind of got to just put them into place like so. Have your finger underneath it and then grab your axle pin and try and slot that through. So we just need to thread that through the 2 holes and keep those wheels into place. And just making sure the axle pin for the wheels is definitely going through the wheel as well. And then we just need to push that in like so, as far as possible as we can. It is quite fiddly, and to do it on camera is pretty much impossible, but I did get the bearing wheel into place and it is rotating. Now, it was quite difficult to align the pin up with the 2 slots and the bearing wheel, but I did finally do it. I did accidentally push it in too far and then the wheel wasn't spinning, so make sure you don't do that, but it should just sit into place, and with it spinning now, hopefully that stays into place. So now all we need to do is do the further 3 wheels. So finally, with those 4 bearing wheels on, again, sorry I couldn't really show you, they are just so minute, it's really hard to get on camera, but they are all in, sliding that metal rod through the wheel, and they are all now into place like they should be. And that is it for issue 15. Here we have issue 16. Let's get this open. We get this nice looking part box. And of course our awesome Dalek magazine here with the blue and silvery logo there. Looks like we're going to look at the Second Doctor versing the Daleks, as well as our step-by-step instructions to build our Dalek. No inside cover art on this one, but we do get our checklist of what's inside this magazine. And today's adventure in time and space is the power of the Doctor.
You heard that, did you?
Yeah.
So yes, that very famous Second Doctor episode. We also get loads of media that the Second Doctor has been in with the Daleks. So we've got comic book strips, we've got audio books. This is really cool. I hope we get this for all of the Doctors. Next, we get the continuation with our Dalek Dome with loads of parts there on our part list, and then the instructions for our next build. So it looks like we're going to be applying the metal plate and this whole cog mechanism into the Dalek. And it does look like we're going to be testing the Dalek itself today. And on the back, issue 17, which will be coming later in this video. So here are all our parts for this issue. So we've got this nice cog ring, we've got loads of little things, as well as our screws. So let's continue on with this Dalek Dome. So firstly, what it would like us to do first is grab these little things. Yes, these are the 3 locating wheels, and then we need to grab our locating wheel hubs and slot these into place like so. And they should just go in. I think they're double-sided, so it don't really matter which way. And that just goes into place like so. So we'll put those in and then just do the further 3. So we've got those 3 made up. So now what we need to do is grab our metal plate, flip this over. And what I would like us to do is fit these hubs into these 3 sections here. One part is straight, so that should be pretty easy to line up. Flipped into a place like that. And then we do it the same with all 3. And that final one just clips into place. So they're in there now. And now what we need to do is flip this back around. And then what we need to do is grab these 3 little mini caps that we got on this issue and fit those onto the underside of those things we just put on. There's the first cap, second cap, and third. Now what we need to do is hold these all into place with AP screws. We'll grab the AP screws from this issue. Let's screw some things in. So with all 3 of those screwed into place, now what we can do is place this to one side for now and grab this, what we made last issue with the bearing wheels, and insert the cog mechanism. So all we have to do is line this up. These ones are closer together, just like these ones, and then these ones are more spread apart. So that should be pretty easy to line up. So it's a case of just lining up the screw holes, and then that should, he says, clip into place. This cogwheel can be quite difficult to snap on, but once you put the first couple of screws in, it snaps in quite easily and all aligns perfectly. So now what it would like us to do is grab our metal plate and fit them into these 3 little grooves. That these little things should fit straight into those little grooves like so. So now that's into place. And then what I want you to do is just press down on this and then pull this away from the recess. So those circular rings now are not in the recesses, and they just spin like so, and that will just make sure it's all aligned basically. For this next bit, I'm just going to put a bit of cloth down just so I have something less hard than this table, because I don't want my Dalek Dome to actually scratch. What I'm going to do is now flip this Dalek Dome, the one we've been building for all of these issues, flip it over like so. And what we're going to be doing is putting this disc plate into our Dalek Dome now. So I've lifted that plate up, and now with it slotted into place, these little holes should all line up perfectly, and that should just now slot into place. You've got to make sure this lead also is fitting through. So that's all lined up now, just making sure those little holes around the edges are lined up with the holes to put the screws in. And now what we need to do is actually fit that plate to the dome itself, and what we need here is some BP screws. And we should have 9 of them to attach in this issue. So let's fit these screws in. So with all of those screws into place now, it's testing time. Yes, we're going to take the battery box with the extender already on, The small little connector on our battery box and slot it in. That should just hopefully slot into place like so. And with that connected into place, what we need to do is actually flip this over, find a box big enough. I'm hoping I can use like one of these older Dalek boxes. And what we need to do is actually put it on to the box, flip it over, and then actually test if this is actually going to turn around. So we're going to find out if this box is big enough for our Dalek to spin. So let's switch this on. And well, it's safe to say that our Dalek is definitely rotating. That's awesome. So with that tested, all we need to do now is unplug the battery box and the extender from our Dalek dome. And with all of that, disconnected it for this issue. So let's get into the next issue, which is issue 17. So next up, issue 17, and what a big box this is looking. So let's take a look at this issue 17 magazine with the Dalek banner at the top there in green. Looks like we're continuing on looking at Davros, the creator, and we get our step-by-step instructions and parts. Again, no Dalek artwork. I'm a bit disappointed on that, but we do have the contents page, and we're looking at Genesis of the Daleks part 4 this time in our adventure in time and space, and we've got loads of information and photos from that episode. We've got some more info all about Davros, and we get loads of information about the Fourth Doctor versing the Daleks, whether that's audiobooks, comic strips, or anything Doctor Who. And then finally, we get the instructions for our next part. Looks like we're finished with the Dalek Dome now, because we're at the midsection, it says here, so this is really cool. It looks like we're creating the Dalek Mutant Control Center. This looks to be all plasticky, so not much metal work going on here. And finally, we've got issue 18, which will be the last issue we look at today. Loads of cool parts in that, so stay tuned for that one. And a huge part box, as you can see. Let's get this open. So here are all our parts for this issue. Let's get building. Firstly, what it would like us to do is just clip these two pieces together. There's 3 little pegs there and peg holes there, and that should just clip into place like so. Should hear a little soft snap. So that just pushes together, no screws needed for that bit. And we're just going to set that to one side, because now we need this big plastic plate that most of our Dalek control center is going to sit on. So what you want to do now is grab your 2 columns, put one to the side, and then just fit one of these onto the actual base itself. There are little grooves that will match up. You want to make sure this crosshatch section is pointing towards you, and that should just fit into place like so. It is quite loose, but we will be flipping that over and applying an AP screw into place. As you can see here, it is very loose. So with holding that from the other side, now we just need to insert an AP screw into there. So we just need to screw it in to the base. And with that fitted in like so, that should just stay in, and that's never going to fall out. Now we just need to repeat the same step with the second column. So once again, just placing that into there, making sure it's all lined up. What we need to do is just screw that into place. Just holding it in from the other side. It can be a bit tricky, so make sure you take your time. And now with both of those columns into place, they shouldn't move at all, and they are looking pretty neat there. Doesn't that look cool? And that's it. Yeah, not a lot to do. We just had to attach those two and push that together. So let's continue on with the next issue, issue 18. So here's issue 18, a big chunky box for this one. And here's the magazine, a bit dented and battered. I really do like these magazines, but when they come like this, all battered up, it's not fantastic. Orange banner logo, and today it looks like we're going to look at the inside of the Emperor Dalek, and we've of course got our step-by-step instructions. And it looks like we're getting no Dalek artwork on the inside cover for these 4 issues, as we've got the contents page once again. And it looks like we're looking at Parting of the Ways as our story. Real deep dive of all of the characters involved and behind the scenes, including that awesome model Emperor. And talking about the Emperor Dalek, in this issue we get the anatomy of a Dalek of that Emperor Dalek, so that's pretty cool, getting a close-up of all of the details. Straight in with our continuation with the midsection. Loads of parts in this issue. And there's our second page. And finally, our sneak peek into issue 19. So that will be the next video on the channel for this Hachette Partworks Dalek. So make sure you are subscribed to follow on with our Dalek build. And it looks like we're getting the Dalek Mutant next issue. So that's going to be awesome. So here are all of the parts included within this issue. We've got a right array of things. We've got some screws, got some big plastic parts. We've even got this Dalek screen here. And what I would like us to do first is grab this section, yes, the support for the backrest, and that backrest we did in the last issue, and attach these two together. There's some 2 holes on this top bit here. Those should just slot into place like so. It's not the sturdiest of connections, but it is into place. So what we need to do now is get 2 EP screws in there. I'm not too sure if you guys can see that, but those 2 little screws in there is where we will be screwing this backrest onto. And try and line this backrest up and fit these screws in. And that should just keep that into place now with those 2 screws in. I had to use a multitude of screwdrivers, as you can see, because it is very tight down there and the holes don't really align too well, so I would do a dummy rung before you properly put them in fully, just in case you defred stuff. But it does look pretty cool and it is definitely into place now. With that all in together, now what we need to do, grab the big plate from last issue and attach it to it. And there are 3 pegs on the underside of this bit, and there are 3 pegs here, and that should just peg into place like so. With that plugged in, all we need to do is turn it over and then add our 3 screws into there. It will be 3 AP screws. With that first screw in, it would be easier now to put in the other 2. You've kind of got to hold everything into place, which is a bit of a pain because a lot of it just wants to slide back out again. But now we've just got to screw the rest of the 2 in. But once again, I do advise just putting a bit of pressure onto that plate as well. And we'll just push that in like so. Let's do the last one. To fix that into place now. So that is all into place. That looks awesome. You can place that to one side for now. And now what it would like us to do is grab these 2 parts, which were pretty much together already when it was in the packaging, and just slot those 2 parts together. It's just a little push fit, and that just pushes in like that. So that will be our Dalek screen base. Then making sure this is the right way around, these 2 pins should stick up further towards the top of the frame, so it should just lean like that. Then we grab our actual Dalek screen, which is on this 3M sticky back, so that's really cool. It's really nice quality as well, and we've just got to now stick that into the center of this awesome panel. And to do that, we just need to pull off this 3M tape. And that's pretty simple, just like so. And then making sure we get this Dalek screen right side up. And I believe that is the right way. And then we just need to slot it into place like so. And that should go in like that. Push it down, making sure that all of the adhesive is touching that plastic. And with that into place, we have our Dalek screen. There is a little bit of film as well to peel off to touch this screen a bit more, but I might keep that on for now and then peel it off at a later date. And then it would like to grab this part and these 2 cylindrical parts and peg them into place on the side here, pegging into the actual structure, and there you go, that just clips into place like so, and that looks pretty cool. And then with that into place, we need to grab these 2 kind of column pieces, and they should again just fix into the smaller pegs of these cylindrical pieces, and that's it all together pretty nicely there. Then bringing back our big base once again, we now need to fit this part onto that base. And there are these 4 little pegs here, and there's 4 little pegs there, and that should just clip into place like so. And these little grooves as well into this piece should rest on these columns, and that is all snapped into place like so. Pretty easy. So we've got to flip this over and then add this to the actual plate with some AP screws. So what we're going to do is flip this back over and add 3 AP screws, 1 in there, 1 in there, and 1 in there. It's strange we're not putting a 4th one into there. I don't know whether we'll be needing that later, but we're just going to put 3 into those holes for now, as stated in the instructions. It's very strange we don't put it in the 4th one. That is now all held into place very, very neatly, and everything is looking pretty cool. And then what we need to do is fit our screen into these 2 pegs here using these 2 pegs. Should just line up correctly, and then fitting that into place like so. That just clips into place like that. And that is our screen into place. And that is what we've built in this issue. So that looks pretty cool. We've got a little chair, it looks like, for our Dalek mutant to sit on, and this awesome looking screen that the Dalek can view. And I can't wait for the next issue where we get the actual mutant to put into this seat. That is all for today's Dalek build. Yes, we added the inside of the dome to make it rotate, so that's really cool. I think we're done with the dome for a while, so that's pretty cool. We're now moving on to that midsection where the Dalek actually sits, so that is very exciting. All the details are below if you want to subscribe to Hachette Partworks and build this Dalek for yourself. And make sure you are subscribed to me, yes, the Who Guy, down below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and smash that like button if you've enjoyed the video. These 4 issues have been pretty cool. Some bits were hard, some bits were easy as always. And I do really like that cool free toolkit. I've been the Who Guy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!
Oh. Someone came here tooled up.